Okay, new video on Star Wars Outlaws from IGN as part of IGN First, which may or may not be sponsored, I have no idea. But in this, they describe making a new moon for the game. This, I forget what it's called, but it's a moon that is inspired by the savannah, by Africa, and looks interesting. Let's see.
So, where do we go next?
Anywhere we want.
At the very heart of Star Wars Outlaws is the fantasy that all sci-fi fans dream of, the ability to adventure across the stars.
This is totally unrelated, and I'm sorry, but my ADHD brain brought it up. I was like, oh, he's got a British accent. One of the last videos we looked at, the guy had a British accent. And then I was like, wait, I thought we were all about like diversity and inclusion. Where are the voiceovers from people from like the depths of Appalachia? Where are the people voiceovering for IGN videos that are from like the depths of Middlesbrough? Where are the people out there that communicate through grunts? We need it shaken up a little bit more. The Brits are great. British accents are divine and delectable, and they make everybody sound smarter. But I need to hear like, today we're looking at Star Wars Outlaws, and we got to see a look at this moon. We got all sorts of moon cows. We got moon dirt, moon rivers, all that stuff. All the goodness.
5 different moons and planets await you, from Rise of Skywalker's chilly Kijimi to the classic deserts of Tatooine. But while fans will recognise many of Outlaws' locations, there is one that they definitely won't.
Tashara is a moon in the Outer Rim, much like the rest of the galaxy. It's run by a corrupt Imperial governor. While the Empire is in charge, this is also a hub of scum and villainy. You have all the sort of major syndicates trying to vie for a stake.
Tashara is a brand new moon crafted especially for Star Wars Outlaws by the development team at Massive Entertainment. Inspired by the East African savannah, it has been molded to be as believable and immersive as possible.
I'm so jealous of people that can just draw stuff like that. I'm so jelly of that. Like, imagine you just have it. Some of you guys are probably artists, but I look at that and I'm like, oh, it's just a notebook, and then they just sketched stuff in it with mountain ranges, the sun setting or the other planet setting in the distance, and I'm just like, yeah, it would be so cool to be able to just draw and create stuff like that. I'm so jealous of that skill and talent. You have no idea. You have no idea. My stuff, it's just chicken scratch. You've seen me pull up MS Paint. Like, it's ridiculous.
We had to work out the demographics of the planet. We had to work out what are the major hubs. We had to work out fauna, flora, all of these sections that needed to come together and also be weaved by narratives.
To learn more, we spoke to members of the Massive team about how they built a whole new world to be added to the official Star Wars canon.
So Lucasfilm Games loves when we propose something new and we bring them something that can become part of Star Wars canon.
They're giving us a box of toys. We take the toys out, play with them, but then we also create our new toys and put them back for somebody else to play.
Massive came to us with the idea of a Savannah planet once we sort of knew the high-level intention behind the story and where we wanted to go. We let them ruminate on what does that mean, what would you like to see, what do you feel like you haven't seen before, what do you want to reference.
For Tashara, Massive wanted a world where the Star Wars mythology's pirate-inspired elements could live. This had to be a place of high-risk, high-reward treasure hunting, a land where getting into trouble with the wrong folks could lead to the equivalent of walking the plank into a sarlacc pit. And so was born the so-called Gem of the Underworld, a moon ruled by a corrupt division of the Empire and largely controlled by the galaxy's crime syndicates. But it wasn't enough to develop lore. The team had to start with the look and feel of the very ground itself.
I will say, I do like the idea of there being all of these like corrupt segments of the Empire, because I feel like that's not something that was really explored that much in the core trilogy and even the prequels and stuff. But like, it only makes sense if you have an empire that spans a galaxy. Chances are there are some bad apples in there that are going to abuse their positions and stances. And there's little hints of it here and there, but you never get to see it like in full force. Whereas in this case, we've seen gameplay sequences where like you're literally paying off the Empire and stuff. It's the Outer Rim. Yeah. I don't know. If you are a Star Wars lore aficionado, and you're like, Luke, there's these 15 factions in these books and in this show, and then like, okay, I'm sorry. I'm doing my best. I don't know much about Star Wars. I'm coming at this as a casual viewer, as a filthy casual, okay? Just so you understand my position. And no, I've not seen The Acolyte, and I do not intend to. You cannot pay me to do that.
Tashara in terms of the general Star Wars design tenets, where it has to be familiar, but with a twist.
It's like you go with the familiar, which, for example, in a place like Tatooine, it would be the desert, it would be Death Valley, and it would be Tunisia. For us, it was like looking at Tanzania as, oh, this is a location that if we would go out and shoot a movie, we would pick this as our shooting location. And then it's like, okay, what else do we need? Like, what is the unfamiliar element?
For us, Tashara was windswept plains of African savanna, but with huge mountains, outcrops that have been carved so that a city can take place within those rock walls, if you will. And amberine outcrops, which create a visual difference there too.
Amberine is the orange ore-like material that can be seen poking through Tashara's surface. Inspired by an old Austrian fortune-telling tradition in which molten lead is poured into cold water to create shapes that reveal what's to come, the amberine forms into a variety of striking shapes.
Wherever you're going, they're inside caves, they form plateaus, they even sort of shape into ramps for Kay to jump her speeder off of. They also react beautifully to the sun.
Unusually for Star Wars, amberine isn't a precious resource like Kessel Spice or Beskar Steel, and so it is left untouched and intact. That's not to say it's useless though. The moon's climate is incredibly windy, and those winds erode away at rocks, cliff faces, and even mountains. And so Tashara's main metropolis, the city of Miragana, would have to be built somewhere that could withstand such a climate.
It's carved into the mountain, into the amberine. So you have natural outcroppings of this very luminous amberine, which lets the light through, that becomes a part of the ambient lighting of the location.
Basking in that light is the Pike Syndicate, the most dominant of Miragana's criminal organizations. But the city's busy streets are full of opportunities for both a galactic scoundrel scouting for gigs and a player looking to diversify their play experience.
I will say, this is why I do enjoy looking at these types of videos. It's just because you play through a game and a lot of this stuff is there. Like the devs have thought about, usually, the placement of all sorts of little bitty things here and there. They've thought about, okay, well, if we're going to build this city, what should the city look like? And why does it look that way? And where is it? What should this layout of the city be and why? And they've thought all that stuff through. One of my favorite things to do for games that I really appreciate is like look at, what's a good example? Even this one. So like there's these art books. This one is for the one and only Death Stranding, of course. And in it, it will help you appreciate so many of the design decisions that were made while they worked on the game. Because almost nothing in these games are accidental. Like every little bitty thing has been thought of, has been researched and considered, down to the shapes of the buildings, to what type of material they're made up of. You can see these are the original sketches of what these pods would look like and things like that. And I appreciate these videos because they help explain that process of, yeah, we wanted to do something kind of unique. So we started exploring, well, what could this planet have? Oh, this amberine type stuff. It's not actually like financially valuable, but it's inspired by this old Austrian tradition of these things that take shapes to tell you things. And so we can tie that into not just like the actual design of levels with ramps being formed by it, or the lighting that, you know, kind of scatters through it to illuminate different spaces, but it kind of permeates throughout the entire level that they've designed. And I eat this stuff up because I love hearing about all those little things you might not notice if you're just kind of going through the game, not thinking about it too much. Of course, there are some games where clearly like they haven't thought about any of that and they're just throwing stuff together as quickly as they can. And I think we all can name probably 15 of those off the top of our heads. But in this case, it seems like they've actually put a lot of effort into considering that stuff. And it's something Massive Entertainment has done before. They did that with Avatar, where they thought a lot of these things through. Even if the game didn't really come together that well, you can still appreciate the work they did in terms of art, in terms of the design of the world and everything they did. And then of course the Division games, they've also done this historically in those games too. So it's nothing new for Massive. They definitely think these things through.
Stealing illegal contraband, running with syndicates. I could say you're a threat to the Empire, but I won't have to if you're smart.
Every single location we had to choose had to be a den of scum and villainy, right? And in Miragana, you can do a lot of things. The first thing that you should do as a scoundrel, as an outlaw, is go to the cantina. And in the cantina, you'll find lots of shady characters that'll offer you jobs, or you can just relax, eavesdrop, pick up some intel, play a couple of games of Sabacc, bet on the Fadia races, play some arcade games.
Beyond the cantina, you'll find a city split into several regions, each with their own flavour. The gambling district is constructed using different architecture and signage to the central market, while the Imperial checkpoint is built of the Empire's instantly recognisable flat panels and grid vents. No matter.
Shout out to flat panels. Love them. Eat them up. I don't think they get enough credit.
Where you find an Imperial base on Tashara, it'll stick out like a sore thumb.
When they come in, they don't care about their environment. They just stamp down their base wherever they need. There are some amberine pillars around it, and we were imagining maybe that was an amberine arc at one point, and they just cut that arc off from the top and just put their base.
Oh, that's what that's a drawing of. Oh. See, so they imagined that it was originally like this, and then the Empire comes in and just cuts it straight off at the top and builds their base on top. Little visual storytelling things. There you go.
Base there. It creates a really interesting visual that's seen from far away that you can really use as a landmark.
Beyond the city's borders, the aforementioned winds have eroded away the moon's rock surface to reveal even more unusual amberine formations. A resourceful outlaw with a speeder bike could use such formations to hit even greater speeds during hot pursuits.
It's very orange glowing. It stands out very naturally in the environment. So we could make ramps where you can jump off. We made the wind tunnels where you can see it carved out by the winds. One of the references was like surfing underneath waves.
In the process of planning out Tashara's geography, Massive even went as far as establishing the moon's wind currents all run north to south. This dictated the map's population density, road networks, audio design, and, importantly, the formation of the speed-boosting wind tunnels. And so while the amberine ramps and tunnels may be a gameplay-first element, it's all created hand-in-hand with world-building lore in mind.
For every location, no matter how small, we want to think about what happened here, what is happening now here, and what is the location in general, what people do here. So we have a very clear idea of the history of the place and what the place is.
If you're still looking for Haas, I haven't seen him.
Actually, I'm here for you. I heard you're the best shot on the planet.
Oh, and you want to be second best.
A skilled outlaw can harness the moon's winds for their benefit, but not everyone is prepared to tackle such a climate. Remnants of those who tried to fight the winds and lost are scattered across Tashara's surface in a smart example of environmental storytelling.
It's a very volatile system. You have a lot of shipwrecks everywhere. People who tried to reach that system before but didn't know how to navigate these kind of currents to safely land.
But the storytelling doesn't
Skill issue is what you're saying. It's a skill issue. Got it.
end there. Those shipwrecks then become part of Tashara's history and economy.
There's very few natural kind of resources to build buildings apart from the rock. They use all the metal from the ships that have crashed and building all the buildings with those.
With so much of Tashara's environment being made up of harsh rock, crashed spaceships, and strange amberine structures, the finishing touch had to be something much more alive and endearing. While the crime syndicates may be the planet's apex predators, there are plenty of other creatures in the wilds to discover and befriend.
The first one that you probably will notice is what we call the Tasharan flyer, which is like a flying creature. They tend to just being attracted by everything that sparkles, and they steal everything. When you see them circling somewhere, maybe you can go there and find something of value because they probably stole it. But we have also the Goshiros. They are like the smaller creatures on the ground. They're fairly fun because if you pet them, they will just start following you. and maybe sometimes more of them will follow you.
Tashara has yet more secrets to be discovered, but we won't know this new moon's best treasures until we explore it ourselves when Star Wars Outlaws arrives on August the 30th. Until then, why not take a look at our exclusive Outlaws gameplay, as well as our in-depth look at how Massive has approached making the first ever open-world Star Wars game.
Dun dun dun. Dun dun dun. Yeah, I mean, I eat this stuff up because I love seeing the background of why decisions are made, why choices are made, and what informs those decisions. Because there's sometimes, like I said, games where it's just no to really think about. I mean, there's even games that do stuff procedurally. Like, of course, there is no thought with those games because it is procedural. They can inform rules and try to do stuff like that, but it's procedural. So, like, what are you going to do? But with this stuff, I can appreciate that they've actually taken those steps to think it through, and they're not just throwing stuff together haphazardly. They're actually carefully considering what goes where and why, and I think that stuff is just really cool. So, interesting. He took my thing. Red